to the final instalment of the Mills Meals Christmas Bonanza exclusively for ID Magazine. I'm going to be showing you a nice alternative to Christmas pudding, which I quite frankly think is disgusting. Purely for selfish reasons, because I'm not a big fan of traditional Christmas pudding, I'm going to show you an alternative. It's a rustic plum tart. It's really easy to make and it's delicious. The first step, and probably the most difficult, is making your caramel. Now what you need is a dish that can go both on your hob and also in the oven, because you're just going to make it all in one dish. So I'm using terracotta, but if you've got a metal frying pan with a metal handle or something that you know can go on the hob and in the oven, you can use that. In here I've got my water and my sugar, and I'm going to turn my heat on. And I'm going to have it up high, and I'm going to be really careful not to splash the water around, because what will happen is the sugar will hit the side of the pan and it will burn, and you don't want that. So you're just going to let this hit a high heat and let the sugar dissolve and turn to caramel. Something I should warn you, for those of you who may not have made caramel before, the process is really quick from turning from golden brown to burnt, and you don't want burnt sugar because it's bitter and you'll just have to start again. So you just need to keep a real eye out, and when the bubbles start to turn golden, which I'll show you in a minute, you know then to take it off the heat. And if you're using something like terracotta, it retains its heat, so it will keep cooking the sugar off when you've taken it off. So you just be aware of that. Your first step is to cut your plums in half and take the stone out of the middle. Next, you're going to make your caramel. You don't want to stir it once the sugar's dissolved, so you just let it bubble. And you can see it will start to spread around and it'll all bubble ferociously. You've got to hold your nerve at this point, because you don't want to take it off the heat until it starts to go golden. And it will smell like caramel, but if you do it before that you won't get a nice glaze on this. So you just got to have to hold your nerve. And I've taken it off the heat and it's still cooking, obviously because I'm using this dish, but you can see now it's turned golden, so this is perfect. You just don't want it to carry on beyond this. You want to wait for the bubbling on the caramel to slightly subside, and you have to be really careful with your fingers because it is molten lava. But you're going to take the plums face down and arrange them. And remember, you're going to tip this upside down, so these are what you'll see. So try and make them as pretty as you can. You can leave those now to cool, and you're going to make your cake mix to put on top. This is really simple. You just basically make a cake mix to put on top of your plums, and you can do it all in one mixer and chuck it all in one bowl. Starting off, I've got my butter and my caster sugar in here. I've had the butter at room temperature to make it slightly easier to mix. Just going to add in a splash of vanilla, and then you just want to stir that up. When your butter comes together like that, just chuck in your flour, self-raising, and give it another blitz. Mixing your eggs one at a time. Give them a short blitz in between each egg. Scrape down the bowl and give it one last blitz before I pour it over the plums. All you're going to do is gently put your cake mix over your plums and gently spread it out. I said gently because you don't want to upset them and end up dislodging them. Really gently, just take a palette knife or a normal knife. Just try and make it as even a surface as possible. It's not going to be perfect, hence the name rustic. And don't worry too much if, like me, you've made the caramel is slightly coming up to meet the pastry. It's all going to be turned upside down anyway. And that goes in the oven at a high temperature for about an hour. But keep an eye on it, you don't want it to burn. And this is what your delightful pudding will look like once you have very carefully turned it out onto a plate. To do that, you take a plate, you put it on top of the pot, very carefully and slowly turn it upside down, and all the juices will come out, and this is what you get. And that's it for this year from Mills Meals. All that is left to say is Merry Christmas. See you next year.